Uncover the shocking truth, what the first 49 days after death reveals about your soul. The townsfolk whispered tales about the old graveyard beyond Elm Street. At sunset, shadows loomed like dark secrets just waiting to be uncovered. Rumors swirled about the strange things that happened there, a chill coursing through the air, fleeting glimpses of light, and the unnerving sounds of voices carried on the breeze. What was happening in those first 49 days after the living said their final goodbyes? Some said the dead weren't truly gone. They lingered, heeding the call of a world they'd just left behind. Every morning, the caretaker stumbled upon flowers laid atop the gravestones, but no one claimed the tribute. Who was honoring these forgotten souls? As the sun dipped below the horizon, whispers grew louder, and the hairs on the back of people's necks prickled with apprehension. Then there were the chilling accounts from residents who felt a pressing weight upon their chests during the night, as if 1,000 eyes watched from the other side. Children reported seeing familiar faces watching from the dark corners of their rooms, their bright, innocent eyes reflecting fear instead of comfort. How could they reckon with the unexplainable? Was death the end or just the beginning of something even more terrifying? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As unease seeped through the town, a macabre tradition began. Each week, someone would disappear, seemingly cut off from the living as if the dead were reclaiming their own. Frantic search parties scoured the graveyard, only to return empty-handed and dumbfounded. And yet, the clues were right there, etched into the very earth beneath their feet. But just when the town thought they knew the worst, a thick fog settled one fateful night. The moon glinted through the haze, revealing something unsettling. A lone figure stood at the center of the graveyard, its outline flickering in and out like a broken signal. Who were they? What had they come for? As the figure took a step forward, a sinister wind gusted through the trees, carrying a whisper that sent shivers down the spines of all who heard it. Darkness enveloped the graveyard, shrouding the mysterious figure still in the center. A few brave souls from the town crept closer, their hearts pounding like war drums in their chests. They exchanged anxious glances, every instinct screaming at them to turn back. But curiosity, that double-edged sword, pushed them forward. The figure seemed to breathe in the darkness, drawing the fog closer like a veil. As the wind howled, the chilling whisper became clearer, a name, repeated like a prayer. Elena, Elena, it echoed through the stillness, chilling the very air they breathed. Who is there? Sarah, a young mother too bold for her own good, called out, her voice trembling. The others felt the weight of her question. They were all thinking it, but no one wanted to admit it. With each heartbeat, the figure moved closer. It wore a tattered cloak that flapped against the unforgiving wind. Suddenly, the fog parted just enough to catch a glimpse of the face beneath the hood. It was a woman, but not just any woman. The townsfolk gasped, recognition washing over them like a tidal wave. It was Elena, a beloved local who had vanished weeks ago, swallowed by the graveyard along with the town's sanity. Is it really you? Ron, the old bartender, stepped forward, bewildered. You're dead. Am I? Elena echoed, the chill in her voice wrapping around them like ghostly fingers. Her eyes glowed with a strange intensity, and yet, they were eerily familiar. Or am I just lingering? The heavy silence that followed was suffocating. People exchanged fearful looks. Some took a step back, while others didn't move at all, transfixed by the apparition before them. Elena's smile was haunting, as if she relished in their horror. Others are coming, she whispered, the wind cradling her words, turning them into a sinister melody. And they know the truth. The truth of what happens here after you die. These words echoed through the crowd. A panic started to rise. Was it possible the disappearances were merely the beginning? Were they all in danger? Heads turned toward the graveyard, where shadows twisted and danced, as though the spirits themselves were preparing for a great unveiling. Without warning, the ground trembled. Dirt erupted near a nearby gravestone. A hand burst through the soil, clawing its way to freedom. The townsfolk screamed, fear as raw as the night. Did the dead come to reclaim what they rightfully owned? Murmurs erupted, thoughts of escape flooding their minds. But where would they go? Elena raised her hand, a warning etched across her face. Stay, I can help you. Help us. Help us how? Sarah cried out, desperate. The truth. Elena beckoned, her voice a soft, haunting lullaby amid chaos. You have to know what we are. But before she could say another word, the blood-curdling scream of someone unmistakably living tore through the air, sending shards of fear slicing through their hearts. The townsfolk turned their heads, but it was too late. Another figure had melted out of the shadows, eyes hungry, lips curled in a devious grin. As they staggered back, a realization settled deep within that this was far from over. The first 49 days after death revealed so much more than anyone had ever anticipated. And then came the bone-chilling final whisper, run if you can, but run where? The fog thickened around them once more, the whispers of the dead growing louder and more frantic. As Sarah's mind raced, a thought bubbled up, unshakable and terrifying. What if the dead had already chosen who would join them? She turned back to Elena, searching her face for answers, but all she saw were the shadows of that lingering death, hungry and waiting. And then the ground shook again, this time more violently. What more lay hidden beneath those graves? What other horrors waited to be uncovered? The suspense churned in the air like a brewing storm, and the dark promise of more revelations lingered like the fog around them. Their fates hung in the balance, teetering on the edge of the unknown. Would they unravel the mystery surrounding the first 49 days after death? Before they fell victim to it? As the shadows closed in, the question was no longer about who they had lost, but who they might become. The earth quaked beneath their feet, and Sarah felt the pulse of terror surge through her veins. The darkness had come alive, swirling around them as if the graveyard itself was a living creature, awakening from a long slumber. The figure that had once been Elena was now a sentinel of chaos, her once familiar features twisted in a malevolent grin. Stay with me. Stay with us. Ron shouted, his urgency barely piercing the fog. Yet, it was harder to breathe as panic tightened its icy grip. Someone was dragging themselves from their grave, and the screams from others echoed with raw terror. Another hand clawed free, dirt tumbling off skeletal wrists. A head breached the surface, matted hair encrusted with soil framing a hollow face. The townsfolk recoiled, their hearts thundering. What do they want? Someone whimpered in desperation, gripping the person next to them. Elena's gaze swept over the crowd. You summoned them, she declared, her voice both a warning and a taunt. The truth you seek, so many have died seeking it. And now, you stand at the threshold. Why us? Sarah's whispered question hung in the air, heavy with dread. Elena stepped closer, her voice a chilling whisper that sent a shiver down Sarah's spine. Because it's your turn to understand what lies beyond. The dead, they are restless. They seek justice, revenge, or perhaps salvation. With each passing second, shadows materialized into forms people they had lost, faces they recognized all too well. Screams morphed into pleas as the undead swayed, their eyes wide, desperate. Look! Someone shouted, pointing to a figure stumbling from the graveyard's depths. James, Sarah's brother who had vanished years ago. She felt as if the earth dropped away beneath her. It couldn't be him. But there he stood, eyes pale, his mouth moving silently. Stop! You're not real. Sarah shouted, a trembling hand raised. The realization hit her like a blow. The weight of loss began to condense into a single thought. Was James trapped? Was he suffering, wandering among the living, bound to the memories of a past no one could change. Elena, you have to help them. Sarah's voice cracked, desperation lacing her words. Help him. Help us. He can't be helped not yet, Elena replied, an unsettling calm washing over her face. You must first face the truth yourselves. Only then can you help those lost in the shadows. As if on cue, the air crackled with tension, and the ground erupted again, sending more figures into the light and into the horror of the living. Faces of sorrow and rage filled the graveyard, and the murmurs crescendoed into a deafening roar. How many more? How do we break the cycle? Another voice cried, panic erupted like wildfire. Only 49 days hold the key, Elena said, her voice resonating through the chaos, mixing with the gasps and cries. Each day, each soul, must reconcile what they were with what they have become. The shadows danced closer, whispering a chorus of maddening voices. Join us. You belong with the forgotten. Sarah felt the walls pressing in as fear encroached upon her mind. I want to go, she shouted defiantly, though the tremor in her hands betrayed her resolve. But a sharp scream cut through the air, yanking her from her thoughts. It was Sarah's friend, Becky, falling back as a hand from the grave gripped her ankle. Horror spread like wildfire, eyes glaring as they realized what was happening. Men and women began stumbling, pulled inexorably toward the gaping mouths of the graves. Run! Someone yelled, but the ground shook violently once again, petrifying them in place. The figures of the dead closed in, drawing ever closer to fulfill a sinister purpose no one comprehended. As chaos erupted, Sarah's heart hammered in her chest. They were trapped, but there was something crucial about those 49 days. What truth lay entwined in that mystery? The fog wrapped around her tighter, the screams grew louder, and there was a weight in the air that insisted it was time to choose. The air thrummed with the urgency of a life hanging by a thread. What if the countdown had begun? And how many souls would be lost before the final bell tolled? Becky! Sarah screamed, panic pushing her forward, but Ron grabbed her arm, yanking her back just as another clawed hand reached for her friend. No! We can't! He shouted, eyes wide with fear. We have to reunite. They're trying to drag her down. The ground trembled again, the cacophony of cries mixing with the wails from the resurrected souls descending upon them. The air was thick with an oppressive dread, shadows swirling like a storm, each dark figure a bitter reminder of the lives snuffed out too soon. Becky clawed at the dirt, her eyes wild. Help me! Help me! But the more she struggled, the deeper she sank. Sarah's chest tightened, anguish tearing at her heart. The truth Elena spoke clawed at her mind: justice, revenge. What if they weren't just victims, but agents of a greater power? A thought jetted through her: are they here for us? Elena! Sarah screamed, spinning back toward the swarming mass of silhouettes. You have to do something. Elena stood at the edge, a dark figure pulled away from it all, an eerie calmness etched across her face. I cannot intervene. Every soul must reckon with their own choices. That's not good enough. Sarah shouted, inflamed with rage. We can't just watch them die. Desperation had turned into fury. She tore her eyes back to Becky, the hole the undead clawed her into widening. As the dirt eclipsed her friend's body, panic ignited the crowd. Voices raised in a chorus of disbelief and terror, all attention fixed on the dark forces that eclipsed the moonlight above. In that moment, Sarah felt something shift within her, a raw, desperate energy that stirred her resolve. No, I won't let this happen. She lunged forward, breaking Ron's grip, and rushed toward Becky. But with each step, the shadows danced closer, darkening her vision. The fog began to swirl around her, thick and suffocating. She reached for Becky's hand, memories flooding her late-night talks, laughter, and shared dreams. They couldn't end like this. Not here. I'm coming. Sarah cried out, gripping Becky's fingers, feeling their warmth. Let her go. A voice cried from behind, a distant shout muffled by the uproar. But Sarah felt her determination solidify. "I will not!" she screamed. With effort, she pulled Becky's hand, feeling the cold, clammy grip of the undead rise up around them. The crowd gasped, sensing they were witnesses to something powerful, a connection between living and dead, blurred lines of fate woven together by courage and love. Suddenly, the shadows stuttered, hesitation rippling through their ranks. Was this the reckoning Elena spoke of? The moment they would recognize the bond that wove this frantic web? But just as hope surged, fear thickened the air like a fog rolling into the night. A massive figure burst from the ground, towering above all the lost souls. The graveyard roared, every heartbeat drumming in a unison of fear. The figure loomed over them, a grotesque amalgamation of faces twisted in a chilling distortion of life and death. "Let them go," the voice resonated, deep and thunderous, a warning through the night. Time froze, silence enveloping them all as a decision loomed heavy in the air. Sarah's pulse raced. This confrontation wasn't just about escape, it was the start of the countdown. "Where's the truth?" Sarah whispered, breathless, as the graveyard seemed to hold its breath in suspense. In that heartbeat, everything stood still, the tendrils of fate aching. What lay behind that ominous demand? And would they unravel the truth before time ran out? Sarah's heart hammered, each thud echoing through the stunned silence that swallowed the crowd whole. The figure loomed over them, each grotesque face contorted in agony, a painful reminder of lost lives and unfulfilled desires. The air thickened, sharp with fear and smoke from smoldering candles left to honor the dead, the faint scent mixing with the smell of damp earth. "Let them go," Sarah shouted, her voice cracking under the weight of her desperation. "You don't own them. They're not yours to take." The monstrous silhouette shifted, its many eyes narrowing, evaluating her. "Do not defy what is meant to be," it boomed, each word dripping with malice. "These souls have paid their dues in life and now, they must pay in death." Sarah swallowed hard, glancing at Becky, who was still desperately clawing at the dirt, tears streaming down her face. "We're not paying anything." Sarah's voice carried, trembling yet fierce. "This isn't how it ends." A murmur rippled through the crowd as others began to speak up, fueled by Sarah's defiance. Ron stepped beside her, fist clenched. "We decide our fates. Not you." He sounded brave, but the tremor in his voice betrayed his fear. The shadows shifted as the figure's many heads turned, and something in the air crackled, an energy unlike anything Sarah had ever felt. A chill slithered up her spine, igniting a fight-or-flight instinct deep within her. It felt like they were on the precipice of something colossal. "Fate is yours to weave," Elena said softly, stepping forward, breaking through the crowd like a ghost herself. "But you must do so with intention, with love, and with courage." "What does that even mean?" Sarah spat, her eyes locked on the terrifying figure that dominated their space. "We can't just stand here." Elena's gaze softened. "You must believe that binds you. The strongest bonds can defeat even the darkest curses." The ground shook again, but this time it felt different, alive with the spark of hope. The faces on the monstrous figure twisted in confusion. Was it feeling something? "Reach out," Elena commanded, urgency swelling in her voice. "Let the love you share rise above fear." Sarah hesitated for a fleeting moment, grasping Becky's hand tighter, feeling the life pulsating between them. Gathering all her strength, she called out to the others. "We're all connected, friends, family, even the lost. We will not be separated." A hesitant chorus rose within the crowd. "We will not let go." Each voice added to her pulse, transforming the darkness around them into something almost luminous. As their combined voices crescendoed, the monstrous figure flickered, its horrifying visage warping under the strain of their collective wills. It seemed to writhe, caught in a bind of powerful emotions and commands. "No," it thundered, "you cannot rewrite fate." But Becky's grip on Sarah's hand tightened, her eyes darting, flickering with a spark of life. Hold on please. She cried, her voice almost drowned by the sinister roar of the figure. The shadows dodged like angry serpents, each lost soul stirred, their faces twisting in reaction. The ground pulsed beneath their feet, a rapid heartbeat echoing through the darkness. Sarah felt a surge of energy, a primal force rooted in love and sacrifice. With one last anguished scream, the many faces on the figure twisted back to where they belonged, their snarls turning into whispers, lamentations of unfulfilled wishes ringing through the night. Then, a deafening silence descended. The shadows stopped their advance, momentarily still as if confounded. But in that moment of quiet, uncertainty crept through Sarah. What would happen next? Would the darkness yield, or had they merely postponed the inevitable? The ground quaked once more, but this time it was different. It was no longer just shadows rising, it felt like something far larger was awakening. Come on, let us go. Ron broke through the silence, pulling Sarah back, but the encroaching shadows began to coalesce again. The figure may have faltered, but it was far from defeated. As the night darkened around them, the question loomed: could they survive the coming onslaught, or had they opened a door better left shut? The ground trembled like a restless beast, the air electric with tension as the crowd struggled to comprehend the enormity of their defiance. Sarah felt the shadows swirling, an ominous force gathering strength, coiling tighter around them like a serpent preparing to strike. Panic threatened to unravel their hard-won unity. Get ready. Ron gripped her arm, his eyes wide with fear as he searched the faces of their friends, seeking reassurance. The flickers of hope that had ignited mere moments ago began to dim, shadows creeping into their hearts. Becky, still grasping Sarah's hand, pulled her closer. What if it comes back harder? Her voice trembled, laced with dread. Sarah glanced at the figure, now a swirling mass of despair and fury, its many heads snarling, eyes blazing like dark embers. We need to hold on, she said, her voice more a whisper than a shout. Together. We must stay together. But just as the words escaped her lips, the monster descended, its multitude of faces spilling forth like a dark wave crashing against the shoreline. An ear-piercing shriek echoed through the clearing, chilling every soul in its path. Focus! Elena shouted, her voice slicing through the panic. Channel everything you feel. Love, grief, anger, all of it. We've faced worse than this. Worse than this? A voice shot back from the crowd, disbelief mingling with fear. It was Kyle, his features pale as the moon overhead, flickering disbelief in his eyes. What do you even mean? Remember the ones we lost, Elena pressed, urgency brimming in her tone. Their spirits are with us. They're not gone, just transformed. We can call them back, harness their strength. Sarah's thoughts raced. She remembered every laugh, every person who had left their mark. We have to make them proud. She shouted, pushing down her own fear. We're fighting for them. As if recalling the warmth of those fond memories, the air lightened, if only slightly. Fueled by Elena's words, more voices began to join the rallying cry. Hope echoed through their fears, casting a shiver into the gloom. Together. They all shouted. For the lost. The figure recoiled, faces twisting as if it were in pain. A chorus of whispers filtered through the air, just barely audible above the din. Sarah focused hard, pulling images of their loved ones into her mind. She pictured her mother's kind smile, Becky's infectious laugh, her brother's brave laughter in the face of uncertainty. Suddenly, the lights of the candles around them burned brighter, bathing them in a warm, golden hue. The shadows shrieked, their cries sounds of unadulterated rage. What is happening? Ron shouted, his eyes wide as the luminous glow silhouetted their faces. They're trying to break free. Elena's face shone with resolve. But we have to push harder. Send your love outwards. With that, Sarah reached deeper, feeling her heart pounding. You can't take them. They are not yours. As her words rang out, a fierce light erupted from the crowd, connections sparking between them like electric currents. The figure twisted, convulsing in agony, and for a moment Sarah thought they were winning, hope flooding her veins. But just then, a dark mist erupted from the shadows, swirling faster and tighter around them, threatening to crush the bright light they had gathered. "No!" she yelled, feeling the pressure closing in, tightening like a noose around her chest. And then she saw it, a solitary figure emerging from the shadows, its shape familiar yet distorted. "Sarah!" it cried, voice torn and fractured. "Mom!" The word escaped before she could stop it, disbelief tinged with longing. "I never left," the figure growled, before colliding with the rest of the darkness, loud and chaotic. Sarah's heart raced, caught between fear and an overwhelming urge to run towards the voice, towards the safety of her mother's embrace. But was it a trick? A facade meant to lure her into despair? "How can I trust you?" Her voice broke, overwhelmed with confusion. What did it all mean? The shadows loomed ever closer, and as the darkness expanded, overwhelming the flickering lights, Sarah's thoughts became fractured. The monstrous figure shifted again, and she felt it, the pressure of something profound about to break loose. Could trust be their greatest weapon, or would it become their downfall? The night closed in, and the chaos of choices loomed larger than ever as Sarah stood on the precipice of her fate. Would she step forward towards the mirage, or stay rooted in the love she felt around her? Beneath the crashing shadows, the struggle for her soul began in earnest. The darkness pressed in from all sides, suffocating, yet Sarah felt the pull of familiar warmth reaching for her through the haze. It was disorienting, her mother's shape warped, the shadowy figure flickering in and out of focus. The cacophony around her heightened screams, whispers, her heartbeat thundering in her ears. "Sarah, you know me." The voice was wrapped in an echo, between warmth and frost. It beckoned, promising comfort, yet lurked with doubt. "Come to me, my sweet girl." She could see Ron and Becky, their faces twisted with horror, but their eyes were fixated on her. They didn't understand. The others, Elena, the remaining crowd, breathed their collective fear, and yet there was a pulsing energy from that flickering light. Was it enough to fight this consuming void? Mom, the word was suspended in the air, weighed down by skepticism. "Trust me, please." The figure reached forward, and something shifted in the air. The shadows curled around her, but they didn't touch the glow spilling from the flickering candles. Sarah's heart ached, every moment felt eternal. Suddenly, the shadows hissed, undulating in shards of darkness directed like arrows, and Sarah felt the collective gasp of the crowd. "Don't!" someone shouted, but it was too late. The darkness threw itself toward her. "Together!" The chorus rose again, voices strong and defiant, pushing back. The air crackled, vibrant against the despair. A surge of light burst forth, illuminating the darkness momentarily. But was it enough? "Channel your love!" Elena cried again, her face fierce, eyes alight with hope. "Let it become a weapon." "A weapon," Kyle echoed, understanding washing over him. "That's it. We need to expose it, the truth hidden in fear." The monstrous entity writhed, howling as though pierced by the very light they summoned. Sarah felt it, a connection with every lost soul they fought for, every laugh, every tear, all of them merging into a powerful wave of defiance. But then Sarah hesitated. What if she stepped into those shadows, believing in the warmth of a memory that wasn't truly her mother? What if it's a trick, a way to deceive me? She thought frantically, her chest tightening as dread coiled around her heart. Don't let it pull you in." Becky's voice shot through her thoughts like a rush of cool water in a fever. In that instant, the shadows recoiled, as if pierced. The air thickened again, and the monstrous figure shrieked, splintering into ethereal fragments that faded like mist caught in sunlight. Clarity exploded in her mind. "You're right," she shouted, fingers trembling. "We must not forget who we are." She locked eyes with Ron, their bond a lifeline in the storm. "Think of what we've survived. All those moments. They will protect us." With that affirmation, the light became blinding. It enveloped her like an embrace, and she stepped forward, urging her friends to join her. They were a wall of resolve, powerful and unyielding. Together was their mantra, swelling with renewed vigor. Every thread of love became a shield, a mantle against the darkness. But even as they rallied, the shadows coiled tighter, whispering lies and memories long buried. The familiar voice of her mother returned, wrapping around her heart like icy fingers. "Sarah, I am here for you. I have always been here." The chilling duel began anew within her as she battled the desire to reach for the warmth while resisting the call of shadows. "No!" Sarah shouted, defiant. "You are not what you once were." The chant grew louder, a battleground of echoes and screams as she faced the truth that flickered like a beacon in the gloom. Would she be the first to break the spell? Just then, the figure writhed, revealing yet more faces, and Sarah knew what lay ahead was a truth waiting to be unveiled. What if some bonds were never meant to break? And what did it truly mean to let go? As the shadows stretched their inky fingers, Sarah's heart raced. Each second felt like an eternity, heavy with stalwart determination and gripping terror. With the pulse of love that had carried them this far, did she have the courage to see it through? The choice stood before her. Would she shatter the dark, or would the truth spiral her into an unknown abyss? The roar of the shadows intensified, echoing in Sarah's ears like a storm gaining momentum. A chilling wind whipped around them, causing her to shiver. Instinctively, she tightened her grip on Ron's arm, grounding herself in his presence. The flickering light, once a comforting guide, now felt like a fragile thread amidst the chaos. Elena's shout surged above the cacophony. "Don't let it twist your reality. Keep pushing." Her voice was fire, igniting a spark of resolve. And yet, the darkness pulsed with a life of its own, squeezing the air from Sarah's lungs. It churned and writhed, taking shapes that were disturbingly familiar, faces of friends and foes alike. Each distorted visage was an echo of doubt and fear, pressing against her like an invisible weight. "Your memories, they will consume you, Sarah." The monstrous figure hissed, now fully formed before her, its voice a mixture of her mother's sweetness and a growl wrapped in malevolence. "You can't escape them." A surge of anger exploded within Sarah. Memories flashed before her, days filled with laughter, warmth, and lessons learned, but also with pain and loss. "No!" she screamed back defiantly. "These are my memories, my truths." Each word sliced through the tension, a blade of clarity. The crowd tightened around her, their collective fear morphing into a chorus of encouragement. "Together!" they exclaimed, their voices rising like a beacon against the encroaching dark. In that moment, Sarah felt an empowering surge flood her, the weight of their shared love solidifying into a shield. She took a breath deep, steady, and stepped forward. The shadows lunged at her, their whispers growing desperate, twisting her past against her. "Remember when you failed? How you lost everything?" But the memories of joy filled the spaces in her heart, fighting back against the darkness. Each laugh, every lesson flooded her mind, igniting a vibrant anger against this twisted deception. "Let go of fear," Becky shouted, her voice slicing through the storm. "You're stronger than this." Sarah locked her gaze on her friends, a newfound determination sparking. "You are not my past," she declared, her voice growing stronger. "You do not define me." The thing before her screeched, somewhere between fury and despair. The light pulsated brighter, feeding on her resolve, casting a glow that pushed back against the shadows. "No!" it howled. "You cannot escape the truth of your lineage." Her heart raced. The lineage, what did that mean? A shudder ran down her spine. There were secrets buried deeper, hidden truths intertwining with the very fibers of who she was. "Mom, what is this about?" she whispered, caught between the pull of the figure and the pressing tide of her friends. The shadows coiled tighter, ready to snap at any moment. "Are you really here?" With every ounce of strength, Sarah broke through, pushing closer to that flickering warmth. In that instant, the figure recoiled, its faces splintering into grotesque images of disappointment and betrayal. There was a chance here, a chance to confront the heart of these shadows, the essence of what they were feeding on. Suddenly, a flash of clarity hit her like a shockwave. The truth. She gasped, realizing it was not just about battling darkness. It was about confronting the hidden truths of her family, the tales that built their history, perhaps even her mother's own buried secrets. Together, they roared again, and with one united thrust, Sarah and her friends concentrated their light into a single beam aimed at the shadow's heart. The shadows hissed, retreating as if afraid of the onslaught, but still, they clawed back fiercely. "Will you unveil the hidden knowledge?" The entity croaked, and as it unraveled, the questions poured forth, twisting the very fabric of truth. "What lies beneath your heart, Sarah? What do you fear most?" With her resolve shaking but unyielding, Sarah felt the ground beneath shift, understanding now that the answers awaited beyond the darkness. "Face it," Ron urged beside her, his voice a lifeline. "This is where we find the truth." Her pulse quickened. What lay ahead was a revelation wrapped in shadows, and they had to break through. Could they uncover what was hidden before it consumed them whole? "Let us do this," she yelled, throwing herself into the storm, heart racing toward the chasm of truth. The darkness writhed. The scream of revelations haunted the air. What secrets would surface when they dared to look deeper? The moment Sarah stepped deeper into the storm, a cold wave washed over her, wrapping her body in a suffocating embrace. The light of her friends flickered behind her, a distant reminder of safety, almost swallowed whole by the monstrous shadows that loomed ahead. The cacophony of whispers grew louder, now an incomprehensible chant that droned into her consciousness. It felt like clawing fingers pressed against her mind, scratching at her thoughts. "You'll never understand," the figure hissed again, an echo laced with venom. "Your lineage binds you. You are not free. Shut up." Sarah shot back, her voice cracking through the noise. She focused on the warmth of the light, a tether pulling her forward even as shadows twisted her every thought. "You are not my truth." The figure moved closer, its shape morphing into something larger and darker, each flicker revealing the outlines of those she held dear but had lost. They took on faces of sorrow, spewing doubt and guilt. Panic surged, and in her mind festered thoughts of betrayal, of secrets buried under years of suffering. "Do you even know what your mother did?" it taunted, a grin spreading across its featureless face. "How she deceived you about your past? About who you really are?" She felt Ron's firm grip on her arm, steadying her amid the chaos. "Focus, Sarah. Remember why you're here," he urged, his voice cutting through the suffocating layers of darkness mounding around them. The crowd stood close, their eyes shimmering with unwavering support, each of them a beacon in her tempest. "Why am I here?" she thought, heart racing. She was fighting the shadows, yes, but also fighting the fracturing pieces of her identity. Her mother's secrets echoed like distant drums in her heart. The truth wasn't just hidden, it was clawing to be released. "What are you so afraid of?" The entity's voice was now a low growl, vibrating through the ground as the shadows coiled tighter around her. "Just let go. Unravel the truth of your family's darkness." "Enough!" Sarah shouted with a ferocity she didn't know she had. She squeezed her eyes shut, flooding her mind with memories, not just painful ones but the joyous ones too, summer afternoons spent laughing, the gentle warmth of a mother's love, the silly jokes shared with friends. They surged through her like a tidal wave, a reminder that despite the secrets, there was still light amidst the dark. "Your power lies in your memories." Elena's voice cut through, booming like thunder. "Don't let it twist them." Together, they shouted once more, and Sarah felt their determination feed into her, filling the gaps where fear had taken root. As she opened her eyes, the shadows shuddered, wavering under the weight of her resolve. "This is my family history. My truth," she declared, voice rising above the turmoil. And I choose to reclaim it. You do not own me. The entity roared, the sound unlike anything she'd ever heard, a blend of rage and fear that echoed into the abyss. The flickering light around her grew brighter, fueled by the strength of shared memories. The ground beneath shook, cracking open the veil that separated truths from lies. Will you dare confront the one who lied to you? It screeched, twisting air sharpened by its fury. Face the truth about your mother. A chilling thought slithered into her mind, freezing her blood. What if her mother had purposefully hidden something dark? Something that could annihilate everything she thought she knew? The shadows pulsed again, intensifying their assault, clawing at her with desperate hands. But Sarah steeled herself, ready to dive into the depths, no matter how dark and treacherous, to unravel the truth for herself. Bring it on! She roared, stepping forward once more, ready to tear through the shroud of her family's buried secrets. But as she lunged into the heart of the storm, she felt a violent pull like a vortex. It sucked her deeper into obscurity. This would change everything. What truth awaited her in the depths of the unknown, and would she be prepared for the answer? The chaos buzzed around Sarah, a whirlwind of shadows and shouts. The air grew thick with anticipation, suffocating dread, and the weight of unanswered questions hung heavy, threatening to collapse under its own enormity. As she stepped deeper into the abyss, all thoughts blurred but one, the heart of the mystery she had to confront. Remember why you're here. Ron's voice echoed in her mind, a light piercing through the storm. Not just for yourself. For everyone we've lost. But just as conviction surged within her, a cold dread washed over her. What if the unfolding truth unraveled everything she thought she knew? The shadows shifted, swarming closer with every tremor of doubt. She felt her heart racing, the ties to her family twisting tighter with fear. Face it. Ron urged, pulling her back from the edge of despair. She took a breath, the warmth of their bond simmering amidst the confusion. Her memories, beautiful and painful, surged within her. The laughter shared, the lessons learned, every moment stitched carefully to her heart. You will not twist them. Sarah shouted, her voice cutting through the darkness. The shadows pulsed violently in response, retreating slightly as if stung by her defiance. I am more than my lineage. She declared, gripping the comforting presence of her friends, their collective spirit intertwining, forming a fabric of love and resilience. The monstrous figure shifted, coiling tighter, and then releasing a low, guttural growl. But your lineage knows your deepest fears, it taunted, voices overlapping, twisting into a chorus of sorrow. Can you face what you've buried? What have you done? Echoed a voice deeply familiar, her mother's shadow rippling through the darkness, its form flickering like an old, haunted film. Do you want the truth? Then uncover the layers of our past. The air crackled, a palpable tension forming in the space between certainty and fear. Feelings of longing and betrayal brewed beneath her breast. Why did you hide from me? Sarah whispered, but her voice was far from weak. Because I loved you, the shadow spoke softly, the semblance of her mother's voice cutting through the storm. I wanted to protect you from what I could not change. Suddenly, Sarah felt a wave surge through the crowd gathered behind her, each life intertwined with memories strewn across time. We all want to be free. They shouted, voices rising collectively, buoyed by unity. The power of shared existence filled Sarah, pushing her forward. In that moment, the shadows thrashed, writhing with fury. You think love can save you? It hissed, a contemptuous snarl framing its words. The truth will tear you apart. But Sarah stood firm. The truth is my power. She declared. It's not buried, it's woven into everything I am. And I will not shy away from it. As if in response, the darkness faltered, hesitation rippling through its boundaries, and light erupted, illuminating its grotesque forms contorting in agony. The air buzzed with energy as the collective strength of her friends piled onto her resolve. We will not be bound by shadows. Sarah shouted, clenching her fists with newfound vigor. We will redefine our own path, not dictated by old fears. With each echo of her voice, the darkness shrank, a banishment birthed from their combined will. The monstrous figure, now twisting in desperation, howled, finally drowning in the glow of unyielding faith and unity. "Let the truth rise!" Elena shouted, grounding everyone, reminding them all they could forge the light together. With fervor ignited, Sarah surged forward, the flickering lights outweighing the shadows. She reached into the depths, grappling for the heart of the mystery, knowing that this confrontation would lay bare the shadows that had haunted her lineage for too long, and there it was, a roiling storm of truth ready to erupt. Memories flashed, loss, pain, grief, but also splashes of vibrant joy. "This is my birthright!" Sarah screamed as realization struck her. Within the shadows, a dark whirlpool revealed fragmented traces of her ancestors emerging from a realm of chaos, ensnared in a cycle they had fought through and passed on, a legacy of pain they had all endured. Together. The crowd roared, charging alongside Sarah. "Together, we will break the chains." At that moment, clarity enveloped her. They were woven together not by fear but by an unbreakable bond, transcending the chains of their past. They could learn from it, but not be bound by it. The pulse of life surged anew, brighter than all she had known. She could feel the darkness shatter around her, collapsing, revealing warmth where cold and treachery had ruled for too long. As the last of the shadows dissipated, silence enveloped the graveyard, heavy with finality yet light like the calm after a great storm. Faces of the lost faded, releasing her, but yet they remained part of her story, anchored in her heart. She turned back to her friends, the bonds forged stronger, hearts beating as one. Ignited by resilience, each of them had a purpose. They were no longer haunted by shadows. "What now?" Ron asked, eyes shining with hope. Sarah looked into the eyes of those who stood by her side and smiled. "Now we carry the truth into the light. We remember and live for those we've lost." As they embraced, the weight of loss transformed, evolving into a strength renewed, a reminder woven within their story. The fog of fear had lifted, revealing a world bright and full of possibilities, a world where they could honor their past while forging ahead, unshackled, united, and in that moment, peace settled like a gentle mist. Though the hauntings had come to an end, the journey continued, and there was hope ahead, glistening like dew-soaked grass at dawn. Now it was time to live fully, without fear of what lay behind. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that lie ahead. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. We want to hear from you. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Your engagement matters. It shapes this community and allows us to keep creating compelling content just for you.